8 a.m. So you'll want to cover those plants before then or bring them inside. And then once 8 a.m. hits, you'll be able to put them back outside or even completely remove that covering because our temperatures will be slowly warming by that point in time. But everyone outside of the lakeshore, at least the immediate lakeshore right around Lake Michigan, will have to at least contend with some frost tonight. We do have that system that continues to slide to our east and to our south. So the cold air is going to be locked in place for the entire weekend. We do have a few showers still lingering in West Michigan, right around 51 degrees with a rain shower or two near Three Rivers, 51 in Lawton and Kalamazoo. A little bit heavier rainfall near South Haven, Hartford, Grand Junction, and Fenville. Fenville at a chilly 48 degrees, 48 in Hopkins, 50 in Grand Rapids. A couple light scattered showers near Allendale and Sparta. Sparta at 49, Belting also at 49 degrees, 49 in White Cloud, 46 in Fremont, 49 in Attrition, 47 in Big Rapids. And again, the coldest air will actually at least be in our far northern counties, but we're going to cool off a little bit quicker because the winds are going to be lighter this evening. We'll see those clearer skies, and we didn't have a whole lot of rainfall to keep some of that moisture right at the ground today, so we're drying things out. So all that leads to good radiational cooling. All of the heat that we were able to build today goes right back into the atmosphere as those skies clear out, and that drops our temperature some 2 to 3 degrees every hour. So we'll bottom out in the low to mid 30s by tomorrow morning. We will see a little bit of cloud cover, rain shower activity developing during the morning hours, bringing us mostly cloudy skies for the afternoon and evening, and also a few of those showers coming off of Lake Michigan, getting a little bit heavier and more widespread for Saturday night into Sunday. Sunday, we will have a couple of those rain showers around during the morning. Afternoon, evening hours, we'll start to step back into those mostly sunny skies, and that's what transitions us into Monday. Monday morning will also likely be a frosty one. We'll likely have some frost advisories, maybe even some freeze warnings once again Sunday night into Monday as our temperatures drop well into the 30s, even some 20s expected then. But Monday will be a very sunny day with highs near 58.
Breaking now from Fox 17 News.
Some breaking news now on President Trump's COVID-19 diagnosis. We've learned that he is being taken to Walter Reed Hospital tonight.
According to the White House, he is expected to remain for, quote, a few days on the advice of his doctors. They are giving him an experimental antibody cocktail for the virus, and we will keep you updated as we learn more. Also breaking news tonight from the Michigan Supreme Court.
The High Court has ruled that the governor has exceeded her emergency powers during the pandemic. That ruling coming down just a few minutes ago. Of course, it's been an ongoing court battle for months with Republican leaders in Lansing arguing the governor does not have the power to extend emergencies past a 28-day limit without the support of legislatures. The governor has been citing a 1945 law that does not impose a time limit, but some argue that the 1976 law, which includes the 28-day limit, should apply instead. Extending states of emergency is what gives the governor power to issue executive orders. No comment yet on that ruling from Governor Whitmer's office. Still to come here at 5, Pulaski Days, the biggest fundraising weekend of the year for Polish Halls in Grand Rapids, is canceled.
How the Holiday Bar is now stepping in to help the neighbors on the west side.
And the shortened high school football season continues. We'll check in with Bakita and Book after the break for a quick look at some of tonight's big matchups.
Eric already talked about this a little bit, but it is going to be a cooler week for high school football and another great schedule of games.
Yeah, Bakita and Book are standing by with a look at some of the big matchups to talk about what's going to be happening tonight for another blitz. And guys, sure does feel like football weather out there.
Yeah, Janice, I'm just really glad Brett's going to get to be in the press box tonight because I don't know if he's cut out for this cool October night. But Brett, you know, we'd always seem to get one of these Friday nights during a season, and tonight's the night where you just got a bunch of conferences where we feel like the two best teams are playing, and that starts right here in the OK Gold with Grand Rapids Catholic Central hosting Cedar Springs, two schools that know a little bit about winning conference championships.
Well, on top of what you're seeing, it's also the halfway point of this shortened regular season, right? Here we go. And Catholic Central and Cedar Springs, I'm looking forward to this one because drastic style differences, two great coaches. Gus Kapolka, what he's done at Cedar Springs, has rejuvenated that program that has some history for Red Hawk fans, and they are fired up. Remember, everything through the pandemic, he was the guy leading leading the way. We've got to get these kids out here. Kids were coming back from the UP just to practice during that session when they didn't know, and they're ready to go in this new division. And then Catholic Central, the defending Division IV state champs. And you look at it, 3 state titles in the last 4 seasons for Todd Colster and the Cougars. And they were so young last year. I mean, with the sophomores and juniors. So Jace Williams, best wide receiver probably in the area, on display tonight. Division I recruit. He's a senior, and they've been throwing to him. I think that's the one thing to note with Catholic Central. Joey Silveri, the aerial attack has kind of set up the run attack with Nick Halloran, where maybe in the past years it was different. But Joey Silveri is just that special quarterback.
Oh, and he'll run with it too. Silveri's tough. It should be a great game. Blitz battle tonight in Zeeland, the Bird Bowl. We've got Zeeland West and Zeeland East. The Ducks are the home team. Don't think that matters. Should be a great game. I mean, I look at this pretty even on paper.
Yeah, you look at it, I mean, the last 3 years, because of the way it's fallen with their enrollment, they've met in the regular season, then they meet again, unfortunately, in the playoffs. You feel bad for both coaches because they do such a great job. Derek Pennington in Zeeland East with his style, John Shillito in Zeeland West, very successful with his style. But over the last 6 meetings in those 3 years, 3-3. And you just never know. Isn't there always a crazy one that you don't expect in this one? Obviously, Zeeland West won both last year. I think they're the more experienced team. Zeeland East, a very young football team that, took some lumps a little bit, but they got Tag Bonema. Anytime you have a Bonema on the team, it's always good. It should be a fun night, but I would say Zeeland West with Carson Golker, now a senior, that experienced quarterback, maybe you give them the edge.
Well, the quarterbacks are experienced and good. Ethan Hotelling as well. So should be a fun game there. All right, Granville-Hudsonville in the OK Red. Great matchup. Another game that looks pretty even, but more important maybe for one than the other, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at for Eric Stiegel and Granville, just the way it fell, remember there was one division game across all the OK conferences that was wiped out in that week 3. Well, guess what? It happened to be Rockford-Hudsonville, and that normally doesn't happen. They normally meet at the end of the year. So Rockford and Hudsonville don't have to play each other. Granville has to play them both still yet. So huge game for Eric Stiegel and Granville. They've been rolling as far as that offensive ground attack with the points they put up. And the physicality this year, I think, is what I'm looking for in this game. Hudsonville's a physical bunch, Rockford's a physical bunch, and Granville has the horses up front. When you look at the strength they have, not only the running backs back, but their offensive and defensive linemen that return. It was a junior-laden club last year, so look out. And then for Hudsonville, a little bit different. No split at quarterback. Brennan Hayes is your guy, very capable guy, experienced guy. No Ike Irish, and he was such a big factor last year for that Hudsonville team.
Well, stay with us throughout the night on Facebook Live between 7 and about 9:15. We'll have updates from the 3 games we just talked about, plus Forest Hills Central Byron Center, which we'll be talking about a little bit in about an hour. For now, though, we're going to throw it back to the studio.
All right, thanks, guys. Polish Halls, like many businesses in Grand Rapids, are facing potential closure due to the pandemic.
And the cancellation of Pulaski Days is creating even more challenges. We'll tell you how a local bar is now stepping in to help.
Breaking now from Fox 17 News.
This is a live look now at the White House lawn. We have learned that President Trump will be flown to Walter Reed Hospital less than 24 hours after news broke that he had tested positive for COVID-19. He is expected to stay there for a few days.
A White House official says that he's going to be treated after he and the First Lady both tested positive, and they said it was precautionary. He's going to be working from the presidential suite there at the hospital, which is equipped to let him continue his duties as Commander-in-Chief. Again, both he and the First Lady did test positive for the virus overnight. They were tested last night after learning that their senior aide, Hope Hicks, contracted the virus. Hicks traveled with the president several times this week. The White House Chief of Staff says the president, again, does have mild symptoms and is fatigued, but doctors are monitoring him. Vice President Mike Pence and Second Lady Karen Pence have both tested negative.
And Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden and his wife Jill also tested negative for the virus. They were tested as a precaution after the debate on Tuesday. Biden spoke in Grand Rapids at the United Food and Commercial Workers Union this afternoon, saying that he is sending his prayers and safety for the president and the First Lady.
I hope that all those who are fighting this virus, including the First Family and so many Americans today, recover and recover soon. My prayers are with the families of the more than 207,000 Americans who've died from this virus.
And Biden said it's a reminder that the pandemic must be taken seriously, adding that it's not a matter of politics and that every American must do their part. Biden's running mate, Senator Kamala Harris, also tested negative today. Michigan lawmakers on both sides have been responding to this news all day. Congresswoman Debbie Dingell posted on Facebook saying that she is praying for their health and hopes that they recover quickly. Congressman Justin Amash had a similar message, sending his well wishes to the president and First Lady, along with their family and the White House staff. We have also learned that the president of Notre Dame says that he has tested positive for COVID-19. Reverend John Jenkins attended the president's SCOTUS announcement last Saturday.
His announcement comes after apologizing earlier in the week for not wearing the mask during the event in the Rose Garden. Jenkins says he has mild symptoms and will continue to work from home. Supreme Court nominee Judge Amy Coney Barrett has tested negative, but she reportedly had the virus this summer and has since recovered. Stay with Fox 17 for the latest coverage on the president's stay at Walter Reed and, of course, First Lady Melania Trump. You can tune in on air, online, and on Facebook. Still ahead tonight, a school program aimed at bringing community members closer together.
The founder has already worked with more than 100 schools across the country with no plans of slowing down. How he's using art and students to inspire change.
And it was quite the chilly morning out there today, and it will be much of the same out there tomorrow. Which spots are expected to make it even into the upper 20s for the start of Saturday? Coming up.
National Military Medical Center for several days is a serious thing. And obviously the thoughts and prayers of everyone is with the First family. It also, Jesse, affects where we are in this nation as we get ready for a national election just about a month away. And obviously all of this factors in, but the biggest concern now is for the president and the First Lady.
Yeah, let's bring in Martha MacCallum. Martha, Brett mentioned the political ramifications of this. Obviously, the president is not going to be doing any sort of political activity, no rallies for at least 2 weeks as he quarantines. And we have a debate in about 15 days. You know, if the president recovers and his tests come back negative after 2 weeks, then we assume he gets on that debate stage. But at this point, I think it's too early to tell.
I mean, that's the fast forward wish that is where we will be 14, 15 days from now, Jesse. I think that all of the country, even though the country is very divided and there has been, I would mention, a lot of really nasty things as we see on social media pretty much every day. So I guess that's really no big surprise. But even in this situation, that's some of what we're seeing. But you can't ignore the dichotomy of how this script has flipped here. We had Joe Biden, who was in his basement in Delaware through the course of most of this campaign. Now he is out on the road. He's in Michigan today and had comments. He really went after the president after making some very kind comments about hoping that he gets better quickly and sending all of his good thoughts and wishes to him and to the First family. He said, look, you know, this is the Trump economy. He got into especially talking about women and how women have underperformed in this economy and in the jobs numbers that we just saw today. So the campaign continues. And it continues in earnest, and the dynamic is changed in a big way by this moment that we're looking at. And my question is, how does this experience change President Trump? You know, and what will we see on the other side of this when President Trump has been through this experience? And we expect, you know, more than 99% of people in his age group survive this and recover. So we fully expect that that's what will happen. But what's the impact going to be on him of this when he does get the opportunity to come out and speak to the people, whether it's at that debate or sooner than that, Jesse?
Yeah, I wonder, Dana, for the president to be affected like this. You know, millions of Americans have been affected by this, and he'd be going through it. He has an opportunity potentially to document how he's feeling, how he's progressing to the country one way or the other through social media, through video perhaps. I wonder if this does change the way the country feels about the coronavirus, depending on how quickly the president can overcome it and get back out there. It could potentially be a very inspiring story for the president to get better and then show the country this is what we can do and safely recover and beat it.
Yes, I do think it will also renew the calls for people to wear masks when they need to, socially distance, wash your hands, do the right thing. I think all Americans have been affected by it at some point or another. I just want to point out, so we're looking at this shot of the White House. This is the Marine One. They're on the south lawn of the White House. But you know, you're used to seeing a different shot. And that's why I'm wondering if we will not actually see the president. Because the way the shot is right now, and maybe John Roberts can tell us if I'm wrong, and maybe they have the pool set up, it's usually near the Rose Garden, you know, when the president gives comments. So the pool is set up somewhere else. So maybe we will get a different shot at that point. Maybe they're allowing the president the option to decide if he wants to say something.
He's watching
or
the
not,
Five.
He might be. I hope he's watching
right
the Five.
now.
I hope he's watching, and I hope he's feeling better. So that shot is a little interesting to me. So Walter Reed Medical Center, it is the preeminent place. If you are going to get medical care from anyone, that is the place to be. I also think, Jesse, just to your point, I think it's a good one. I think it will renew people's sense of taking precautions early. Like if you have any symptoms, self-isolate, try to get a test, and then follow doctor's orders. Now, not everybody in America has access to Walter Reed, but the president of the United States is not just any average American. He is the commander-in-chief and the leader of the free world.
So I used to, my neighborhood is where the old Walter Reed was.
And before we get to you on, the Biden campaign is now removing all negative ads. That just came in. They're removing all negative ads on the internet, at Facebook, also on there. All right, Juan, so...
let me just finish my thought there.
Please.
So Walter Reed used to be in my neighborhood in Washington. Now it's over in Bethesda, as Bret Baier was explaining. And I've been there, to sign books and to greet people, soldiers and the like. But I recently was right across at the National Institute for Health, NIH. And I got to tell you, that is just an amazing, it looks like something out of a different world in terms of the medical facility possibility that exists there. The other thing to say is the last time the president was at Walter Reed became a mystery. We don't know why he was there, and it's never been disclosed why he was there, and there's been all kinds of gossip and conspiracy, but we don't know. And that's part of the thing about this president is he's been very private about his medical history, medical records, and the like. And what's different about this moment is that now there's going to have to be a degree of openness, that you can't just brush this off. As you rightly said, the president has COVID and he's being taken to a hospital. And as he goes through this experience, I think that the whole notion of taking coronavirus seriously and wearing the mask and the like is something that he now, I think, is in position to speak to with power. And I think it really can make a difference as we go into the colder months. And as I mentioned, we see this uptick in the infection rate. It's just an important opportunity for him as a role model to speak out and to be clear about this.
Right, and just so everybody's aware, there's been no mention of invoking the 25th Amendment at all. Let's go to Chris Wallace, host of Fox News Sunday. Chris, you've heard now the Biden campaign removing all negative ads from the airwaves. That sends a very classy signal, obviously, but it does send kind of a more serious signal that the Biden campaign recognizes the seriousness of what's going on and is taking the necessary action politically.
Yeah, interesting that we're told that the decision, and the Biden campaign wanted to put out the fact that the decision to pull the negative ads was made before word came that the president was going to be flown to Walter Reed Medical Center. They wanted to emphasize that. I will say, I think the Biden campaign has handled this just right today, and I would expect them to do that. There's been no piling on, no second guessing of what the president has done in his handling of the virus. We saw the vice president making his speech in Grand Rapids and wishing the first family the best. He went on with the campaign as well he should. There's no reason for the campaign to stop at this point, but making an affirmative case for why he thinks he should be elected. But obviously, it's a delicate moment, and you don't want to do anything that is seen as criticizing the president or kicking him, hitting him at a time when obviously he's got a disease and now we find out is headed off to the Walter Reed Medical Center. So I think that it's a delicate situation, and they, so far at least, have played it just about right, which is what I would expect from them.
Yeah, and I guess over the weekend, the Biden campaign needs to continue campaigning. You'd expect them to maintain the level of activity that they had been in the past. And I guess they'd have to probably watch their tone a little bit, maybe dull some of the sharper partisan attacks, especially on the coronavirus when it comes to going after the president. And the Biden campaign may be, I think, campaigning unopposed for the next week or two as the president remains quarantined and taking the medical necessary precautions.
And that's what's so interesting, and it's why we all got into the news business, is because truth is stranger than fiction. And as was been pointed out earlier in this hour, for so many weeks and months, Joe Biden was off the trail, and, we talked about him in his basement, and the president was out doing rallies and talking to thousands of people and appearing in person. And now it's going to flip. And obviously, this isn't a political or a strategic move by the president. It's a medical move. He's doing it to protect his health and the people around him. But the result is he's going to be off the trail. And to the degree he's able to campaign, it will be virtually the way Joe Biden did. And instead, Joe Biden has come a little bit out of his shell. He's got a new plane with his name emblazoned on the side of it. And while not a conventional campaign, we saw him in Grand Rapids today. We're going to see him on the trail more. And although I think we're going to see him very much wearing a mask and very much observing all of the safety rules that we hear about, social distancing and all of that. But the script has completely flipped in just the course of 24 hours. As I said to my wife when I woke up this morning and I saw the sad news about the president, I said, it's 2020. This is just the year of unforeseen and, unfortunately, usually bad news.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go to Martha MacCallum, who has an update for us. Martha.
Well, just a little bit of an update. They do expect that he's going to walk out any minute. They're preparing to get him out of the building. There is the assumption that he's not going to answer any questions, although with President Trump, you never quite know. I'm told that he will address the pool in some way, a wave or something along those lines. But I am also told that even though this camera shot looks unusual, we don't usually see it from this angle. As Dana pointed out, we're seeing sort of the broadside of Marine One. I'm told that the cameras will have a shot of him in front of the residence when he does come out, and that's going to happen momentarily.
Thanks, Martha. Let's go to Brett Baer, host a special report.
Hey, Jesse, a senior administration official just telling me in the past couple of minutes, the president's health condition, I'm quoting here, is monitored constantly, and his relocation to Walter Reed Hospital should not be viewed through a new prognosis lens. In other words, that he's somehow deteriorating. This is from a senior administration official who is very well aware of the situation, saying that this is an abundance of caution. Yes, he is going to the hospital. Yes, he is going to be there for several days, and we can infer from that whatever we want. But this administration official is saying it's not because the symptoms have somehow rapidly increased or he's deteriorating in any way. And that's one of the reasons we're going to see him in a matter of moments address the pool cameras in some way, as Martha mentioned, likely a wave, and not talking to reporters.
Thanks, Brett. Well, that's a very nice reminder. I think you mentioned that earlier, that maybe we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, and I think, to the point about the script being flipped, the reason why it flipped, and maybe it's a flaw of Trump, is that he didn't hide from the virus. And the reason why he didn't hide from the virus is he didn't want America to hide from the virus. If he was going to ask America to get back to work, right? To get back to work and experience a risk, he was going to do the same thing. He was going to walk out there on that battlefield with you and not sit somewhere in a basement and tell you how you got to get back to work, but not go out himself. So I think he put himself on the line, and the flaw being that as an optimist, as somebody who's trying to convey a message that we're going to get through this and things are going to be better, he had to walk that walk. He had to do that. He could have scared the crap out of everybody, but he refused, and it goes back to his original point about trying to make sure the positive attitude is maintained along with a sense of concern. So he took the risk. He got the virus. But it was because he was doing it for us.
This is a difficult moment, and we just want to, again, reiterate our best wishes to him. But he is a man who was very clear in saying that this was going to disappear magically. He's a guy who was mocking at times former Vice President Biden for wearing a mask, even recently. He's a guy who says, what's with these big social circles? He's a guy that went ahead and
he deserved it.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying...
Yeah, I don't think we should go down this road, Juan.
Held rallies in defiance of the advice of public health officials. So the flip of the script is one in which he now is clearly in position to be the national leader in saying, I understand the seriousness of this virus, and I want us as an American people to get through this, and here are steps we can take, the mask, the social distancing, and the like.
None of the ha-ha, told you so audience ever disagreed with the experts when they said don't get masks because they were hoarding. None of the ha-ha, I told you so experts ever agreed with Trump about the travel ban. None of the ha-ha, I told you so experts said anything when de Blasio or Pelosi said live life as normal. So I think people don't deserve the prize of aha, I told you so, if you didn't share the risk and make a statement at the start.
And I think just putting politics aside just for one moment, this is a reminder that this could have been prevented if it had been addressed early on in China. The Chinese Communist government lied to the world about this. They covered it up and they let it escape throughout the world, and now we are dealing with the repercussions of that. It shouldn't be about Republican or Democrat. Let's remember how and where this all got started. Dana.
So we have the Marine One there to take the president up to Walter Reed Medical Center. It's not a long helicopter ride. It can be a very long car ride because of traffic and also disruption to the city, which I think the Trumps have been very respectful of the people in the city and not trying to make their commutes even more difficult in these times. It is a historic moment. And you have to go way back in history to see, when this would have occurred. And I don't know if it's ever occurred this close to an election. But I do think it's good that the Biden team took down all the negative ads. They said that they had made this decision even before this announcement about the Walter Reed trip had been decided.
And I do agree with Juan that this is going to change how the president digests the coronavirus pandemic here in this country, how he expresses his feelings about it. And in a way, it kind of forges a stronger bond with the American people over the virus. He's experiencing it. He will communicate how he's experiencing it. And we hope he recovers. He recovers quickly, and he can lead the country out of the pandemic. Again, we're watching Marine One, awaiting the president to walk out from the residence where he'll be examined at Medical Reed after testing positive for coronavirus. Let's go to Brett Baer. Special report starts now.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. Breaking tonight, you're looking live at the South Lawn of the White House. An October surprise, the likes of which America has never seen, especially in an election year. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump are in quarantine tonight after testing positive for the coronavirus. The president will work from Walter Reed Medical Center for the next few days. His upcoming events are being postponed or changed to virtual. There is no word on how this might affect the remaining debates officially. But what comes next? The president is moving to Walter Reed. Our chief White House correspondent, John Roberts, begins our coverage of this most extraordinary development in an extraordinary few days. Good evening, John.
Yeah, it's just another one of those pictures that you never thought that you would ever see. Marine One sitting on the South Lawn of the White House, waiting to transport the president to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center because the president has been diagnosed with coronavirus. We're told that this is being done out of an abundance of caution. The president is, at the age of 74 and slightly overweight, in a high-risk group for coronavirus disease. So the president's physicians want to make sure that he has the best care available immediately to him, would need to be transported from the White House up to a hospital facility, that he would merely be down the hall. So he will work out of the suite of presidential offices at Walter Reed for at least the weekend, if not longer. President Trump today taken to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, where he will work for the next few days after he and the First Lady tested positive for coronavirus and came down with what are said to be mild symptoms, including fatigue. The president's personal physician, Dr. Sean Connolly, revealing President Trump was treated with an experimental antibody drug from Regeneron, which in human trials lowered the viral load from coronavirus. The president has also been taking zinc and vitamin D to boost his immune system. White House officials say President Trump and the First Lady are in good spirit.
He continues to be not only in good spirits, but very energetic. We've talked a number of times this morning. I got the 5 or 6 things that he had tasked me to do like I do every single morning.
The diagnosis immediately led to questions about national security, even continuity of government if the president were to suffer from severe coronavirus disease. The House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying she is praying for the president and First Lady.
That continuity of government is always in place. I always say it's a relic of the past, but nonetheless, they say we have our job we have to do, and this is what we'll do.
While it is unclear how the president became infected, one of his top advisors, Hope Hicks, fell ill Wednesday on a campaign trip to Minnesota. She was isolated aboard Air Force One for the ride back and tested positive Thursday morning.
Immediately when she got a positive result, there was contact tracing that was put into place and all of the necessary procedures. Contact tracing takes time.
Hicks' positive test was already known by White House senior staff as the president prepared to leave for a fundraising roundtable in Bedminster, New Jersey, Thursday afternoon.
In terms of Hope Hicks, we discovered that right as the Marine One was taking off yesterday. We actually pulled some of the people that had been traveling in close contact.
Despite the fact the president had been in close contact with Hicks over the previous several days, he was cleared to board Marine One and make the trip.
It was deemed safe for the president to go. He socially distanced. It was an outdoor event, and it was deemed safe by White House operations.
Who exactly assessed that it was safe for the president, even though he knew he had exposure, to travel to New Jersey?
White House operations made the assessment it was safe for the president in consultation with others.
Contact tracing has so far turned up no positives in the president's immediate orbit. The vice president and Karen Pence, Barron and Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, Mark Meadows, Kayleigh McEnany, Mike Pompeo, and Stephen Mnuchin all testing negative today, though one press office staffer tested positive from what is believed to be an unrelated transmission. With just 32 days until the election, the Trump campaign is on a temporary hold. Events in Florida tonight and Wisconsin tomorrow canceled. In a statement, campaign manager Bill Stepien saying all previously announced campaign events involving the president's participation are in the process of being moved to virtual events or are being temporarily postponed. Vice President Mike Pence, who has tested negative for COVID-19, plans on resuming his scheduled campaign events. Unclear tonight is what will happen with the next presidential debate. It is scheduled for 2 weeks Thursday on October the 15th. It is possible that if the president gets aggressive treatment at Walter Reed and tests negative 3 times before then, that he could be out of isolation. Time to make it to that debate in Miami. Brett?
John, let's just paint a picture here real quick. You are on the north lawn. We are looking live at an image of Marine One on the south lawn. It's where the president delivered the Republican National Convention final speech that Thursday night, just outside of the Rose Garden. And we don't think, is this right, that he is going to speak to reporters?
We don't have any indication that the president will stop. Don't forget, he is infected with coronavirus. And while he could stand 10 or 12 feet away, he might not want to stop and talk for fear of infecting someone else. He may also not feel up to it either. Just a note for you about that shot that you're looking at. That's a shot that we normally don't see. That would be from a local live truck, probably parked on Constitution Avenue, shooting back against the south lawn. Just in front of the tail of the helicopter is assembled the White House press pool. That's the photographers and cameramen who will be getting pictures of the president as he exits the south portico there. Again, it is possible that the president could stop to talk for just a second, tell us how he's feeling. I wouldn't blame him if he doesn't, but you remember that iconic photograph from the Reagan administration of Ronald Reagan and Nancy Reagan in the door of Marine One waving as he was being whisked off to Walter Reed Army Medical Center, as it was known at the time, for colon cancer surgery. So it's likely that we'll see a scene similar to that today.
All right, John Roberts live on the north lawn of the White House. John, thanks. Let's bring in Dr. Manny Alvarez. He's Fox News senior health analyst. Doctor, thanks for being here. Your thoughts on this diagnosis and where the president is heading now to Walter Reed, the National Military Medical Center?
Well, listen, I don't read too much into him going into the hospital because at the end of the day, the White House has limited resources to monitor the president. You also have to remember that he's getting a medication like this polyclonal antibody that needs to be monitored for any potential side effects. So the combination of giving him that medication in conjunction with any other signs and symptoms that they need to monitor, the proper way is to do it in the hospital. And I think that this is a sort of routine, if you will, in the case of the president.
What do you think of what he is receiving, this Regeneron? Tell us about it. I mean, explain.
Well, this is a polyclonal antibody therapy. Basically, these are antibodies that are generated from former patients in conjunction with antibodies generated in the lab. And what they do is they eat up the virus. The whole point of this antiviral therapy, if you will, is to minimize the viral load so that there's no secondary effects coming from the coronavirus that could, impact a significant side effect in his lungs or in his heart. So I think that this is a very good therapy. The preliminary results that came out early this week shows very positive results, and I think that it's the right thing to do.
So what is the risk? He's obviously in this age group. He is a little overweight. He goes hard. He's the Energizer Bunny when he's out there on the trail. What do you think about the possibility and the prognosis for President Trump knowing him?
Well, a couple of things. He's 74, but he doesn't look 74. And I'm sure physiologically speaking, he probably feels like a 55, 60-year-old individual. He doesn't have any negative vices. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, and he's very active physically, So all of that plays a lot of positive things for him. I think one of the factors, of course, for the president is that he has been burning the candle in both ends with this election. He's out and about going to 200,000 meetings a day, so that runs you down at the end of the day. So when you get the virus, they complain about the mild symptoms. Mild symptoms in coronavirus are all the same. You get the fever, you get the tiredness, the fatigue, loss of appetite, your smell goes away. So if that's the worst that you have right now, with his physical attributes of being so active and relatively healthy, aside from everybody's talking about his weight, but everything else being equal, I think he should recover.
Considering he's getting, as we're told, mild symptoms, the next, 72 hours are important?
Yeah, to me, the next 3 or 4 days become very important. That's exactly what the doctors at Walter Reed are going to be monitoring. They're going to be monitoring his oxygenation. If he doesn't have any major complaints of any chest discomfort or shortness of breath or anything like that, and it's just the low-grade temperature that goes away, maybe one day, maybe comes back the next day, if that's the worst of it, then he's going to be fine. But the next 72 hours are very important.
And we should point out the First Lady has also been diagnosed with COVID-19, and we haven't had any update on her symptoms or lack thereof. Doc, you've seen a lot of people go through this. And what do you tell people who are going through it for the first time?
Listen, I think that, being alert about your symptoms is very important. Even people that we see with positive findings that may have mild symptoms, we talk about what you should be looking for. Shortness of breath. Are you disoriented? Are you so tired that you can't get up? Those are the things that for anybody, you should go to the hospital. But in general terms, if you're relatively healthy, the young, if you don't have any underlying medical conditions like chronic diabetes or hypertension or cardiovascular disease, this goes away.
There are other things that are coming online. The president has talked about them on the trail a lot. Therapeutics that are increasing. He's obviously taking this cocktail, as you mentioned, of antivirals. What else could potentially he be doing, or will they give him? Vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D?
Yeah. I mean, all of those things improve the immune system. You know, remdesivir is one of the other drugs, and you know, it could have gone both ways. They could have started him on remdesivir. There's utilization for that in early phases of coronavirus, and it's like a Tamiflu, if you will, for people that have been familiar, let's say, with Tamiflu. It minimizes the viral side effects. But in this case, they chose something a little bit stronger, that's for sure. It's a little stronger medication, but it's very effective. But at the same time, as I said, because it's in phase 2 of trial, this is why I'm sure the doctors, including the company, suggested, you know what, it's better to monitor him in the hospital since we gave him the medication. Let's just make sure that he doesn't get any side effects and, you know, everything is on the up and up.
And last thing, just the big picture here. Now that the President of the United States has COVID-19, does this change the perspective, do you think, of America? Maybe those who were not taking it as seriously as they might have?
Well, listen, I don't think we should change the narrative. The narrative is the pandemic is coming slowly but surely under control. The vaccine trials are ongoing. They seem to be very positive, multiple vaccines. So that is happening as we speak. When is the vaccine going to get approved? When is it going to be distributed? People talk at the end of the year, the first quarter of next year, but it's going to happen. We're talking about, you know, less than a year for sure. I think that all the things with the masks and the social distancing and the cleaning and all of that is very positive, and people should still continue to follow that. But, you know, this is going to pay, you know, this is important because it is the President of the United States and attention must be paid. But at the same time, his message is, you know, we've been going in the right direction. And right now, what every American should do is pray for his health, First Lady's health, and, you know, let's stick together as a nation because we were heading in the right direction.
Dr. Manny Alvarez, thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Chris Wallace moderated Tuesday's debate, saw the coronavirus protocols firsthand there in Cleveland, as did I. He joins us now. Chris, it's hard to believe that was just 3 nights ago, and how things have changed so dramatically in that time.
Absolutely. You know, we talked about COVID-19 in the debate. It was one of the topics. And there was quite a disagreement between the president and former Vice President Biden about how to handle it. And one of the specific questions we talked about was masks. And I talked about the fact that the president has been much more reluctant to use masks, and Vice President Biden has seemed to wear a mask almost all the time. The president took a mask out and said, look, I've got a mask right here, and I'm ready to wear it when I think I should, but I don't need to wear it and don't wear it so much, and then kind of mocked Joe Biden and said, you know, he's got this big mask on all the time, and he speaks to very small groups of people with, you know, circles around him. I think he took some shot at Biden that he can't attract a crowd. But, you know, the handling of the virus is going to come back. It's interesting because back in March and April, that was the subject. And then, of course, we had race and law and order and violence. And then with the death of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court, I think COVID-19 now goes back to the top of the political agenda. And in terms of just the political facts, if you look at the polls, people tend to trust Vice President Biden more by about 10 points than President Trump on that issue. So it's not especially one that I think the Trump campaign wants to have on the top of people's minds right now.
Yeah. Let's just talk big picture here, 30,000 feet for this moment. You've covered a lot of presidents, including Ronald Reagan, who went on Marine One on that very same South Lawn to Walter Reed Army Medical Center back in the day to get colon cancer surgery. And he had this iconic image waving with Nancy Reagan in Marine One. We haven't seen this in a long time. And just talk about the historical moment we're watching with this president.
No, that's right. We've been blessed to have presidents that were in pretty good shape. Obviously, despite his age, Donald Trump has been, in constant motion during his 4 years, and I think has worn out the press corps and his staff with his times on the campaign trail. So, I think a lot of us are fascinated to see just what he looks like when he walks out from the diplomatic reception room in the White House and takes those steps over to Marine One to the helicopter. Is it the Donald Trump of old that maybe isn't feeling so good, but it still has that same vigor? We sure hope so. Or is he somebody who's, we see the physical effects. I'm going to say this, and I want to make it clear, I'm in no way criticizing or casting any doubt about the Trump White House and the information they've been giving us. But you asked about Reagan, and there was a tendency during Reagan's illnesses to sugarcoat it and to underplay it, and we would find out after the fact it was more serious. And because of that experience, and I have no reason to believe it's true of this White House, but I always have any statements by the White House about the president's in good spirits and, mild symptoms with a considerable grain of salt.
Right. Well, Chris, thank you. We were just told, and we saw some activity there on the South Lawn, that the president has walked out. He was wearing a mask. We did not see that live. Again, this camera is from across the street looking towards the South Lawn. We are told he waved or made some gesture. He was wearing a mask on the way to Marine One, and this will be what's called a pooled turnaround of this tape that will be played out for us, and you'll see that right here on Fox News Channel. You can see some of the flash bulbs on the left side of your screen, and that's the photographers and reporters gathered here. Chris, thank you. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times, Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio, and Steve Hayes, editor of The Dispatch. Mara, we're getting Marine One about ready to take off now. The president and the first lady on board, heading to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. He will spend several days there, we're told, out of what the White House is calling an abundance of caution. He will work from the Walter Reed offices there. There are a suite of offices, and he will obviously be monitored for COVID-19. Your thoughts?
Right. Well, apparently the setup for the president, Walter Reed, is pretty commodious. It's like a whole floor, lots of bedrooms, offices. It's kind of like a mini White House. So he's going to be able to work there. But I think there's going to be tremendous interest in what exactly are his symptoms, how he's feeling, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to actually speak to either reporters or address the nation. I mean, this is a big deal. And, he's going to need to, at some point, reassure the country that he's okay.
Steve, there's a lot of animus all over social media. It's a divided country. But in moments like this, praying for and wishing good thoughts for the first family of the United States, the commander-in-chief of our country, is a pretty good thing to do.
Yeah, it shouldn't matter what your politics are. Shouldn't matter what your views are on Donald Trump. I'm saying prayers for Donald Trump. I hope people who, regardless of their views, regardless of their religious beliefs, will join me in saying prayers for Donald Trump. I think it's a time for people to show restraint. I mean, we've lived through 2020 in a global pandemic and the near collapse of the global economy. We've seen our cities on fire. We've had real racial tension. It's been obviously a strained and strenuous year, and everything has been turned up to 11. I think now is a time for restraint and facts. I think the White House needs to provide good information, as much of it in public as is humanly possible, and not, as Chris Wallace says.
Let's pause for a second. Let's pause for a second. Let me see if I can get the natural sound here. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump traveling via Marine One from the South Lawn of the White House, now heading to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. It's a short trip over to Bethesda, where he will be on the ground. Steve, go ahead, finish your thought. I wanted to take that live.
Yeah, sure. My point was pretty simple. I think the White House has an obligation to provide as much information, truthful information as possible, but reporters have an operation to be restrained as well. I mean, it's important that we ask tough questions, that we probe for as much information and detail as we can possibly get, but I think it's worth taking a step back and not allowing sort of on-air speculation and kind of irresponsible claims to take over. This is a time for facts and good information.
I hear you. Charlie, your thoughts?
Well, certainly these are dramatic images, without doubt. But I do think that following on your reporting out of the White House and what Dr. Alvarez was saying, I think it's important to remember that Walter Reed is precisely where the President of the United States should be today, on a day when he's been diagnosed with COVID. It is set up. The entire operation is designed for exactly this. No matter how serious or how minor the president's symptoms wind up being, this is where he should be, and so I think it's important to remember that. On a personal note, obviously it's heart-wrenching and it's frightening to think of the president being vulnerable to something that has been so horrible for so many people and can be a devastating disease. The president, he's a tough guy. He is a fearless guy. And I, obviously join Steve and Mara and you and everybody else in sending up. There are a lot of prayers going up from America today, right now, and I think that's undoubtedly a good thing.
We are less than a minute from that video that we promised, the walkout of President Trump and the First Lady from the White House to Marine One. As we showed you earlier, the reporters, the photographers were gathered just to the outside of this door. And right now, they're getting ready to play out this tape for the president heading to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. The president, according to the White House Chief of Staff, was in good spirits. He made some phone calls today, but was fatigued. And we had two statements from the White House physician today about his status, what he actually was taking, including a cocktail of antivirals that is not yet approved by the FDA. It's called Regeneron, and the company put out a statement as well. Let's listen in. And there you see it. It actually was just President Trump making that walk from the White House. The First Lady Melania Trump not with him, but obviously wearing a suit and tie and also that black mask. Also with him, the White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, also wearing a mask. He tested negative, we're told, the White House Chief of Staff did. Mara, your thoughts on those images as we look live at the Walter Reed Medical Center in Bethesda as Marine One gets ready to land there.
Yep, pretty dramatic. This has been a week it's just been head spinning, of how many big events have happened this week. But now he's off to Walter Reed, and I think that we're going to see what happens when he takes this drug. They say it's out of an abundance of caution. NPR actually had several sources that said that in addition to being fatigued, the president did have a fever. How high it was, we don't know. But whenever the president of the United States goes to Walter Reed for anything other than a checkup, it's a really big deal. You heard earlier in the show, Joe Biden has pulled his negative ads. That was a sign of respect. I don't know if the Trump campaign will do the same thing, but this is a really important moment in this presidential campaign.
Let's go to Kristen Fisher. She's outside watching Marine One come down there at Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Kristen.
Well, Brett, you can see Marine One just behind me. We heard it just moments ago. It should be landing here at Walter Reed any minute now. And, this is really the nation's premier military hospital. We often hear about it or see it in the news when presidents come here to visit wounded troops that are staying here. But now President Trump is coming here as a precautionary measure. And I just want to go ahead and read you the statement from the White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany in full, because it really does give you a sense of what we can expect over the next few days. And you can hear Marine One landing right now just behind me. It should be touching down literally within the next few seconds. But here is that statement from Kayleigh McEnany. She said, quote, President Trump remains in good spirits, has mild symptoms, and has been working throughout the day out of an abundance of caution. And at the recommendation of his physicians and medical experts, the president will be working from the presidential offices at Walter Reed for the next few days. And so a lot of people don't know this, but there is an entire suite, an entire complex inside this massive military hospital strictly for moments like this. It hasn't been used much, but it has been used in the past. President Ronald Reagan actually stayed here overnight in 1989 after he had a minor surgery. And so there is this whole suite of very secure offices. There's places for the president to eat, sleep, work, and receive treatment. And so the White House taking great pains to stress that President Trump is coming here out of an abundance of caution, just in case, things spiral out of control quite quickly. As we know with this virus, that can happen, and it has happened to a lot of people who test positive for COVID-19. So President Trump landing here at Walter Reed right now, where he is expected to stay for treatment and work for the next several days, Brett.
Let's hope and pray that doesn't happen, that it's a speedy recovery, and that he gets back into action very soon. We're going to this live camera. It's a pool camera on the ground at Walter Reed. It looks like they are moving out of that area. You can see the people gathered outside trying to get a shot of the helicopter and the president arriving. Charlie, 2020 has been a bit surreal to begin with. Now, this is even more so.
It really has been. It's, a week ago you would have said that it can't get any stranger, and then here we are watching these images. It's pretty incredible. But, people who love President Trump and people who don't particularly like his politics, I think everybody can agree he's a master showman. He's a master of style and imagery. And I was struck by watching him walk between the White House to board Marine One. He gave a couple of waves, he gave a couple of thumbs ups, and but the detail that struck me the most was as he boarded the helicopter, when he got to the top of the steps going into Marine One, he tapped his hand on the railing of the stairs, and that was very intentional, I think, by him. It's a way of him saying it's going to be okay. Or at least from his perspective, he feels like it's going to be okay.
Let's just listen in and see these images. wherever the president goes, it's a big operation. Even a short drive to the actual Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. Kristen Fisher's outside, and the president will be inside as he gives a little wave to the crowd in the pool right now. Kristen?
Brett, such a surreal scene out here. The entire street right outside of Walter Reed has been shut down. No surprise there. This happens a lot when the president is moving around town, either via motorcade or when he is landing via Marine One. But there really is a different feel out here tonight. There are dozens of members of the White House press corps standing on the street. And what's really notable is I'd say there's about 100 people that have gathered right outside Walter Reed as Marine One was touching down here, and they were standing on the other side of the street. And as Marine One started to touch down, they all ran across the street and crowded by this fence just behind me to try to see whatever glimpse they could of President Trump landing here just hours after testing positive for COVID-19. We always say that presidents come here quite frequently. This is where they come when they're receiving minor medical procedures or when they have to have a surgery, as President Ronald Reagan did back in the late 1980s. But to have a president of the United States touching down here, where he's not just going to be here for the next few hours, the White House press secretary says he is going to be staying here for the next few days, and to have him touching down here in the middle of this pandemic, it is one of the more surreal and odd developments in a year that has already been incredibly surreal and odd. And so now we really just set up shop here right outside Walter Reed, because this is where President Trump is going to be working, it's where he's going to be sleeping, and it's where he's going to be receiving treatment. And for those that don't know, inside Walter Reed there is this entire suite, this entire complex, very secure complex that is set up exactly for a moment like this. It really hasn't been used all that much in the past, but it was made for a moment like this, and now it's going to be put to good use. And I will say, so many of the president's recent trips to places, they're very loud affairs. When you cover a Trump rally, everybody's cheering him. When you cover a protest, you get the opposite reaction. But here, the mood, very quiet, very somber, nobody really talking or saying anything, Brett, and it really just feels like everybody here feels the gravity of the moment. Brett?
Kristen, thank you. It is sobering. This virus has reached our commander-in-chief, the head of our country, who is now seeking treatment at Walter Reed because of it. And this comes just 30 days from a national election. Peter Doocy is covering the opponent to President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden. He joins us now. Peter, the former Vice President starting today with thoughts and prayers for the First Family, but continuing to campaign.
He is continuing to campaign in person, Brett, because the Biden Brain Trust is so confident in their ability to enforce very strict health and safety guidelines that are very COVID specific. Biden says he meets 4 times a week with a group of specialists and experts in public health, and those are the kind of people that he is consulting while pushing off his trip this morning to when they're deciding whether or not he should go or not. Notable today, he never took his mask off the entire time that he was speaking. He spoke through a surgical mask. It was pretty easy to understand what he was saying, but he made a point to never take it off. He is in a habit at events like these of wearing it a lot. In fact, I was in Alliance, Ohio when he got off the train the morning after the debate, and he walked right up to a microphone and started talking for 3 or 4 minutes, and his aides were in the back doing this motion telling him it's okay to take it off when you are socially distanced and you are delivering your remarks at a microphone. But he is in a habit of doing that, made a point not to take it off today. He also did not really go hard at President Trump the way that he does when he makes these trips every day or two. Something else that's going to change here in Michigan, and really the last couple of weeks we've been going swing state to swing state. Every time you turn on the TV, no matter what is on, there are negative ads. A lot of them are blaming President Trump for failed leadership during the pandemic. But now that President Trump is suffering from COVID-19, they are not going to hit him with that or with anything else. They are pulling the negative ads for now, a Biden campaign source told me a few minutes ago. And so things are changing, but there has been a reversal of roles because early on in the days of the pandemic lockdown, we spent a lot of time in Wilmington, Delaware. Joe Biden told us in the summer, it was early July, that he didn't think he had to leave because no matter what he said, if he was in Delaware, close to home, it got the same coverage as going to a swing state. But today, he is campaigning like President Trump was in the beginning, and President Trump now is in the hospital. So it's a real reversal of roles, but it also goes to show how important states like Michigan are to Biden. They thought long and hard about whether or not he was going to be able to come here. They slimmed down his schedule. They had a socially distanced event. He came, talked for about 20 minutes, did a couple local interviews, and headed right back home. Brett?
Peter, is the campaign saying anything about the next presidential debate? Are they going that far, or are they just dealing with the former vice president's schedule?
So the University of Utah and the Commission on Presidential Debates are both saying that they expect the VP debate, Kamala Harris against Mike Pence on Wednesday in the Salt Lake City area, will go off. As for the debate after that, less than 2 weeks from now in Miami, we have spoken to some sources within the Trump campaign who, as of a couple hours ago, were expecting that was still going to be something that they would be prepared for, but things are changing very quickly. And so in terms of future debates, the ground rules are negotiated up until just a few hours before the candidates actually walk out. If there is a reason that President Trump cannot safely attend, it is possible that a ground rule could be worked out for him to participate and to debate Joe Biden remotely, but that would be a real heavy lift because, again, anytime that there is a change made to something like a presidential debate, it has to go through the commission, and then both campaigns have to consent to it, and they are nowhere close to that right now. As of right now, it seems like they are planning on going, but they will make those decisions about a big change or about somebody being off-site only if they really have to. Brett.
Yeah, as far as the VP debate, which is next week, the Trump campaign.
All right, we are dropping out of the coverage of President Trump arriving at Walter Reed Medical Center after testing positive for the coronavirus, where we are told he's going to be there at least for a couple of days. And as we've been mentioning, they're still not sure exactly if he's going to be debating Joe Biden on the next debate that's coming up in just 13 days.
Take a look at this video of Marine One outside the White House just a few moments ago, preparing to take President Trump to the hospital. A visit that's been described as precautionary, but we are told it will last for a few days. Both the president and first lady tested positive overnight after a positive test for top aide Hope Hicks. The White House chief of staff says the president has mild symptoms, with the White House adding that he's been feeling fatigued. They say he's been injected with an experimental antibody cocktail, but they didn't go into detail with what that exactly includes. White House says that President Trump will continue to work from the hospital's presidential suite, which will allow him to continue on with his official duties. The president did share a video of himself on Twitter just a few minutes ago. It was taken right before he departed for the hospital. Watch.
I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support. I'm going to Walter Reed Hospital. I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget it. Thank you.
Reassuring the American public that he is doing okay. And of course, a lot of reaction has been coming into this throughout the day. Governor Whitmer tweeted her well wishes this morning, saying she hopes the news will, quote, serve as a wake-up call to every single American about the severity of the health crisis. And Michigan Republican Party chairperson Laura Cox issued a statement calling the president a fighter and saying that they are sending prayers to both the president and the first lady and the entire Trump family. Several others in the Trump administration have also been tested for coronavirus. Vice President Mike Pence and Second Lady Karen Pence, along with Ivanka Trump and her husband Jared Kushner, have all tested negative, along with Barron Trump. The White House says that staff members have been tested on a daily basis since the pandemic first began.
Meantime, Republican National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel has tested positive. An RNC spokesperson says she was tested after a family member contracted the virus. She's been at her home here in Michigan since Saturday. And as we mentioned before, the president was on stage with presidential nominee Joe Biden this week for the first debate. Biden and his wife Jill have both tested negative. News of the president's hospitalization coming just as Democratic nominee Joe Biden wrapped up a campaign event here in Grand Rapids.
Of course, all eyes on him today. Doug Reardon following the campaign live outside a labor union where Biden spoke earlier. Doug?
Yeah, guys, and the VP finished his address just after 5 p.m. today and then very swiftly left the area with the press pool and his Secret Service escort. But we had been waiting all day to hear if this was something that was actually going to happen because, of course, with the big news of the day being the president testing positive and with the two of them sharing a debate stage just days ago, we weren't sure if this was going to be either altered or canceled altogether. So we did learn about a half hour after learning that both the vice president and Jill Biden, his wife, tested negative for COVID-19, and there were a few adjustments made to the schedule. They were here speaking today at the Food and Commercial Workers Union headquarters. They did have to cancel a campaign trip to the Kent County Democratic headquarters across town. The VP never removing his mask today that we saw, even while he was addressing the crowd. And it is very important to note that he was here for a good reason. The 1.3 million members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union endorsed Biden back in August. And before he mentioned jobs or the economy today, Biden again called for a nationwide mask mandate and also addressed the first family's diagnosis.
Be patriotic. It's not about being a tough guy. It's about doing your part. Wearing a mask is not only going to protect you, but it also protects those around you. Your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, husband, wife, neighbor, coworker. Don't just do it for yourself. Do it for the people you love, the people you work with.
And we also learned shortly before the vice president did test negative today that his vice presidential pick, Kamala Harris, also tested negative for COVID-19. Joe Biden taking to Twitter earlier today, wishing the president and the first lady a swift recovery. Ryan, Janice.
All right. Thank you, Doug. Stay with Fox 17 for the latest coverage on the president and the first lady. You can tune in on air, online, and on Facebook. The Upper Peninsula is moving back a phase in the state's reopening plan for COVID.
The governor says the move comes after a recent surge of cases in the area. That new order goes into effect next Friday. It requires remote work where possible, masks in schools, and limits on social gatherings. Basically, it moves the UP to match the requirements seen across much of lower Michigan. Governor says the UP's number of positive cases started to rise in June and then continued on that trend until mid-September when there was a sharp increase. She says the area has, quote, the most concerning numbers in the state with around 5% positivity. And the state is confirming an additional 780 COVID-19 cases today. That brings our state's total to 126,358. State's death toll has now reached 6,788. It's an increase of 7 from this time yesterday. As of a week ago, more than 95,000 Michiganders have recovered from the virus.
Also, some big news tonight. The Supreme Court here in Michigan has ruled that the governor has exceeded her emergency powers during the pandemic.
It, of course, has been an ongoing court battle for months, with Republican leaders in Lansing arguing the governor does not have the power to extend emergencies past a 28-day limit without the support of legislatures. The governor has been citing a 1945 law that does not impose a time limit, but some argue that the 1976 law, which includes the 28-day limit, should apply instead. Extending states of emergency is what gives the governor power to issue executive orders. Governor's office did issue a statement calling it deeply disappointing and noting that the ruling does not go into effect for another 3 weeks. The AG's office is now reviewing the decision.
That news comes the same day that a group working to repeal those emergency powers turned in its petition signatures to the state. But the AG's office is looking into the group's claims for allegedly using illegal tactics to collect the signatures. Unlock Michigan turned in a total of 539,000 signatures today. They only needed 340,000 for the bill to be considered. But secret recordings released by Keep Michigan Safe, a group working against Unlock Michigan, accuses petition circulators of fraud fraud, and the AG's office now investigating. If enough of the signatures are valid, Unlock Michigan wants the legislature to consider the bill before the end of the year.
The state health department has announced that someone in Montcalm County has died from Triple E.
This is the second human case now in Michigan so far this year. The health department is not releasing any information on the victim. We do know that the first confirmed case was a man in Barry County who has been released from the hospital. Last year, Michigan had a record number of 10 human cases and 50 animal cases. So far this year, though, 36 animal cases have been found across 15 counties. Health officials recommend you avoid standing water and wear long sleeves and bug repellent.
We'll have a quick check of your forecast when we come back.
Alrighty, let's get down to business now, everybody, with this weather forecast. A couple breaks for sun earlier, but overall today, mostly cloudy skies and a few of these darker clouds at the moment, still capable of spitting out a sprinkle between now and the next couple of hours, but really not much more than that. These temperatures, they're chilly. Upper 40s to around 50 degrees, and we really won't drop off a whole lot until we lose the clouds. Eventually, we will do that, though, over the next few hours and into the overnight, going mostly clear for a period, and then becoming partly cloudy again as some very high-level cirrus clouds begin to work on in from the southwest. Winds out of the northwest right now, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Those have been dropping off just a little bit. Look very closely on the radar. Precipitation shriveling up from what was already very stray activity about a couple hours ago. So we're losing it as we see the sun go down, which will be right around 7:20. That's just about shy of a half an hour from now. So you lose that daytime warming, which wasn't much today, but you lose the sunshine and those little popcorn showers start to go away. So most of this overnight is going to be completely dry. But through tomorrow, a weather disturbance out over Nebraska right now and another one over southern Canada. Those will drop southward and will be just enough by later in the afternoon to produce a chance for a shower here in Grand Rapids. Even earlier than that, say late morning to around midday along the lakeshore, shower chances will return. Frost advisories, yeah, those are returning again tonight too. We got down to 36 this past morning in GR. Pretty similar turnout, I think, as we open up the day on Saturday. Evening planner just a few minutes away from 7 o'clock. Looking at upper 40s. We'll fall back to about 42 as skies start to clear out. We'll go one step at a time here. Mostly cloudy at 7 p.m. with a sprinkle, partly cloudy by 9 p.m. and mostly clear at 11 o'clock. Again, I think a few more clouds do start to bleed in, but these will be high-level types for the overnight tonight. Showers late on Saturday. We'll have a few around through the first half of Sunday as well. A bit milder early next week. The bigger warming, though, that I have been talking about to come about later in this forecast period, that is still on tap by next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I think we're going to be making a run back for 70 degrees at that time. We'll see the clouds begin to shrivel up right along the immediate lakeshore, probably holding on to a few more clouds, but it'll be right against the immediate lakeshore overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. The model pretty aggressive in starting to develop more of these sprinkles and light showers. I think it's more towards tomorrow afternoon, late afternoon into the evening. Grand Rapids starts to turn a bit damp again. Many hours tomorrow, though, should be on the dry side locally, and then overnight into Sunday morning, there will be additional showers around, staying chilly. But I can tell you what, by next weekend, though you can't see it here, we're going to take a run at 70 degrees.
All right, the 70s aren't gone yet. That's kind of nice.
It'd be nice to have that back, especially after looking at that weekend forecast.
Yeah, even though some of us have already turned on our heat at the apartments and the homes.
No shame in putting the heat on this type of year.